The 49ers add a body on the defensive line that they sorely needed. Steph Sanchez or Nick Bosa, and I will break all that down and more right after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, the only podcast that has two healthy bodies on it. Steph Sanchez, Nick Bosa. How are you?
Only one of us dressed in a costume today.
I dressed up.
The cooler
I
one,
dre-
two of us.
Hey, I dressed up like a very happy 49ers fan. Can't you tell?
Are you happy though?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, look, people want, Trey Hendrickson and all that stuff. And, I think we've kind of been putting it out there that it was going to be one of these types of players, lower on the rung, We'll talk about all that in a little bit. But real quick, Steph, did you win in fantasy this week? Because I did. And I'm very happy. And Lamar Jackson didn't play. Shout out to Snoop Huntley.
I did win in your league, so I am happy about that. My hot streak continues on. So, coming back for that championship.
And subtle flex, my Scott Fishbowl league, which is also on Sleeper. I have clinched a playoff berth with 3 weeks to go, clinching my 13th victory, man. So looking good right now over here with my team. But we're talking about Sleeper. The NFL season is here, which means you now have a chance to win 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. Pick stats like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more. Up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. And for a limited time only, new users will get a free $20 entry. And don't forget, use promo code GSP and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. So, the 49ers we were woken up this morning to the fact that, and this is how down bad the 49ers fans were, crashing out over Travis Gibson being poached by the Carolina Panthers. And look, it wasn't that everybody was saying, oh my God, Travis Gibson's good. It's how many bodies do you have left now at this point with all of the injuries? And I think that's really what the crash out was about. It wasn't that Travis Gibson was some sort of game changer. Now, speaking of not game changers, it's Keion White. But this is like the type of move, Charles Omenihu, Arden Key, that type. Look, if you want to ask the question, how do you fall out of favor with Mike Vrabel? It's a simple answer. Milton Williams was signed. He's really good. Harold Landry was signed. He's really good. Chason is the other edge. He's really good. So there was no space for him anymore. And what I want to say is people fall out of favor because that's not Mike Vrabel's guy. And they brought in these guys to play. So it's not like he has any allegiance to a player that was here before he got here. So I don't want this to be dismissed as like, oh, well, he fell out of favor. He sucks. He doesn't suck. That's not what we're saying. I'm just saying he literally fell out of favor because that's how it is. But he can rush from the inside, rush from the outside. Look, bodies are welcome, especially when you consider that the draft compensation was a 6-7 draft swap. I had to do it because Rob got so mad about it. Steph, what are your thoughts about Keion White? I saw you were diving into the tape earlier.
Yeah, it was. And I think this move, kind of like what you said, is very in line with what we expected the 49ers to do, that it wasn't going to cost them too much and that they were looking for, someone who wasn't going to just be a rental for this year. He's under contract through the 2026 season. So I think that's big for them. Only 26 years old. I think that's also huge when you think about that. I didn't even know he was so young. So I think that's great. And it didn't cost them much, right? So I think given all that, they desperately needed bodies, as we were saying. Like, the only healthy defensive ends they had was Robert Beal Jr. and William Bradley King, who Bradley King is on the practice squad too.
And Michael Williams, right?
And Michael Williams, who, you can line up inside or outside. I still think they prefer to have him line up inside, which makes this Keion White thing interesting because I think, White lines up inside and that's where he's best too. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of how they split time between those two guys. But, from what I saw, and I was only diving into the 2024 tape and I barely got into, much, just in the 1 hour
That's
that
smart.
we had
That's
before
smart. He
the
didn't,
show.
but that's smart because he hasn't played much this season. So what else are you supposed to go off of?
And I did want to see him at kind of his high point, which was the beginning of that 2024 season with him. What was he good at? You know, he wins a variety of different ways, and could line up pretty much anywhere on the line. So yeah, that does give the 49ers a lot of positional versatility there, something they really covet. The one thing is that, you know, hearing other like Patriots beat writers talk about this is that it's not just that he fell out of favor because of other defensive linemen that were there. It was just he was suddenly not performing at the level that he was in 2024, which, you know, I think it's fair to have some concerns about that. But I think when you look at other acquisitions that the 49ers have made similar to this one, even Bryce Huff, like you talked about it, right, Jay? Like just the fact that a new coaching staff comes in, you know, things change. Sometimes guys aren't scheme fits and, you know, they aren't going to get the time or opportunity to, you know, to make things work. So when things weren't looking quite right with Keion White early this season, and, you know, I think he only had 3 pressures in the limited time that he played so far. You know, I think that it just made sense for the 49ers to look at it as, hey, we have a lot of trust in Robert Saleh in our system, and we have trust in the player and the tools that he has that we'll be able to maximize, you know, what we can get out of him. So I think it's a low risk and potentially high reward type of move for the 49ers. And we've seen them have success with making similar moves like this in the past.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, the move from regime to regime, right? DeMarcus Covington and Gerard Mayo last year. Those are your coaches. They're both fired after 1 year. And this year it's Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's a very no-nonsense guy. That system that they run is there's a little bit too much freestyling going on in the run defense. And the scheme fit that you're talking about is one cut and go here with Robert Saleh. So it works right away, right? Again, like this is again, sometimes situation matters, right? Like, why is it that you see resurgent players all over the league? Well, sometimes they're miscast. And like you said, with Bryce Huff, miscast with, you know, the Eagles last year. Stop asking your plumber to fix your roof, right? Like again, what are these guys good at? So that's exactly what this is. And for the audio listeners, KP of Niners Nation, man, he really nailed this one, man. I don't know if, I mean, did he know? I mean, does he know? Does he know? The tweet on the screen says, last year, Keion White was one of 4 defensive linemen in the NFL to play at least 15 snaps at both edge, 15% of snaps at edge and interior spots. Under a new regime, White has only played 8 interior snaps this year, meaning, again, they were forcing him to play purely edge, which is not his strong suit. He's supposed to be able to do both. He was a healthy scratch for the pass last week. White has the type of size the Niners covet at 285, 290 pounds on the edge. Have to imagine John Lynch inquires about a former second rounder who is under contract through the 26th season. Did he know what is KP cooking over there? But I also, you know, again, scheme fit, all that stuff, it works. And it also allows right now to just have experienced players. And if you're looking for good tape on Keion White, go back to week 4 last year when he was the best Patriots lineman against the San Francisco 49ers. And he was really the one who got all the pressures. He put a big hit on Brock Purdy. So it is there, right? And we have to think about this move as the first of many moves. You know, I would expect Cleveland Ferrell to not leave the building, right? Like, I think that's almost a done deal. You need that as well too. I think you need, you know, a little bit more. So you make another move, like an Arden Key type, or, you know, like if it's in tandem and it looks like this, and it's not going to knock your socks off, guys. I'm not trying to sell this as like game changers, but at the end of the day, the 49ers need capable veteran bodies. If it ends up being Keion White, Cleveland Ferrell, and Arden Key in tandem with Bryce Huff returning in 2 weeks and YGM, I feel far better about this defensive line. Are they world beaters? No, but they're better. Like, they're just, and that's all you really need. You just can't keep running out. You know, we haven't talked about the Houston game, but they were going to have trouble rushing the passer if all of those guys made it through the game. Now you're talking about Sammy O's hurt and Jordan Elliott's hurt. What do you think's going to happen? They're running out of bodies. So again, like, you have to contextualize this by saying, yes, it's a low risk, high reward type of deal. You've seen it happen with Omenihu, who, by the way, he literally physically profiles as him. And with Arden Key, and you have to think that this is kind of what you're thinking. But again, a reliable veteran body who probably has something that he wants to prove as well too, who wants to let everybody know, hey, listen, I'm not done. One last thing I'll say, Chris Kosurik, if you're that guy, then let's go, because you seem to yell a lot in practice. Like, I'll give you that. I don't know what else you really do around here. Are you developing guys? This has to be your project. Get it done. Make him better. Teach him. Just don't yell, and then they'll go into a press conference and be like, "Yeah, we like GTFO." I don't give a shit about mantras. Are you gonna get these guys going? So, Chris Kosurik, if you're that guy, hello, let's do something about it.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, this is a move that was mostly based on need and just needing a body, but you could do a lot worse in a trade when those are the circumstances. Like, they could have signed anybody off the street. They had looked at a few free agents and gave guys a workout, just the last couple of days. But I like this move instead, and we do agree that they probably do still need another pass rusher and all this. So I'm curious if they do a Clinton Farrell trade as well, or sorry, pick up as a free agent, or someone else. But you definitely need more bodies. Not happy with just this right now. But I agree also that I think when guys get back healthy, and I think right now the assumption is that Bryce Huff misses one other week, like that's
Yeah,
best scenario based on
yeah.
what
We don't want him near that
said.
MetLife turf.
Yeah, no, no, please no. And Samo, I think, is day to day, right? So
We're
he
all day to
maybe
day.
has we all are, yes. I mean, he might have a chance to go Sunday too, but the point being, when all these guys are healthy, Etcha Gross Matos as well, who looked pretty good, like it'll look a lot better, and
Yes.
I think we'll feel better about the state of this pass rush, which should help other areas of this defense that are struggling currently right now as well. Like these poor, this poor secondary with all the youth and all these guys, they're out on islands right now, and especially when you have to dial up the blitz and you're still not getting there.
Yeah.
It's just a really hard situation to be in. So this could only help the 49ers. And again, like, we're not expecting it to be this splash move right out of the gate, or, but it's going to be a move that helps them, and it costs them next to nothing. So good move in my book.
Yeah, again, the sum of the parts, and just again, you're just moving in the right direction where you have healthy bodies. Somebody else that just had a tryout 7 days ago with the Indianapolis Colts, Shaq Barrett, could be somebody else that they bring in as an edge. Like, again, bodies. We're not talking. There are gonna be no splash moves, right? There is gonna be no Trey Hendrickson, no Kayvon Thibodeau, none of that, right? Like, it just. I prefer these moves right now because it doesn't feel like this team is any closer to like being Super Bowl champions. Like, if you're giving away a first or a second rounder and you don't win the Super Bowl, yeah, we're gonna you know what? I'm gonna keep that comment to myself. We're gonna storm Levi's, because what are you doing? Right? Like, if you are giving up a first or a second rounder and you don't win the Super Bowl, then what did you do? What are you doing? Right now, you have so many positions of need. We're talking about safety. We have no idea what's going on. You still have to replenish the pass rush regardless. What are you going to do with linebacker behind Fred Warner next year? Offensive line. Everybody wants offensive line, right? But if you're giving up our first or a second rounder for a splash move and you don't win a Super Bowl, it was a waste. So again, this is the move. Continue to just build up this depth. Get as many guys in there that are capable bodies that can help, and hope that your coaching staff can maximize it. I'm looking right at you, Chris Kosurik. I'm not going to let that one go, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, that's exactly why the 49ers mortgaging a early draft pick just didn't make sense for the current roster as it stands. Dealing with so many injuries, this roster, even without the injuries, honestly, probably weren't one splash move, one Trey Hendrickson away from being a Super Bowl contending team. So it just didn't make sense right now. But they needed to do something. So this is the type of move that fits, I think, the current state of the team right now. And like they've been saying, it's going to help them next year as well. So then we could evaluate if they could make splash moves next year and if they're in a better position to contend. But for this year, I think we're good with what we have, and we'll be happy with the defense as it stands, and just hoping they can surprise us along the way.
Yeah, again, that pass rush that you saw on Sunday, that's not going to beat
What
anybody.
pass rush?
Right.
What
Well,
pass
the thing is when your secondary members are the leading pressure getters, yeah, you've got a problem. Like that's a problem. Like again, like when you see that Malik Mustafa and Jair Brown lead the team in pressures or are tied with Michael Williams or pressures, it's not good, right? So again, a 6-7 draft swap is nothing for the likelihood that you can get something out of Keion White, and again, probably Cleveland Ferrell, Arden Key, Shaq Barrett, those types of guys, and then Huff, YGM, those guys will all be back. Then you start to feel a little bit better about this, and you can start to do things. Again, here's the thing: if Keion White plays on Sunday, which God please do, because we only have like 4 or 5 guys,
kind of needs to.
yeah, it kind of needs to. The thing is if he is out there and he plays, and let's say he goes out there and he has like one pressure, maybe a hurry,
Fine.
and yeah, but like I don't want anybody to freak out and be like, oh my God, this guy's like, yeah, like again, what some of the parts of that defensive line are, it's not, again, like let's wait to see him in tandem with everyone else before you can make a full definitive statement. But I know I'm just kind of speaking into, the nether region, like, because like what are we talking about? Because what's gonna happen. He's gonna go out there, he's gonna have 2 pressures, and he'll be like, oh, this guy sucks or whatever. And it's like, please, like, settle in, like, relax. It's not a 1-week evaluation, but I think it's fine. I think this is just in line with exactly what the 49ers, tend to do all the time. And I don't want them mortgaging the future, a first and second round pick, because it doesn't make them a Super Bowl contender. And if you do, then you have to win the Super Bowl. Otherwise, we're going to start screaming malpractice.
Yeah, I mean, I already know there are going to be people who overreact to the move, who immediately are going to say it was a bad trade. I've already seen people saying underwhelming move, like, based on what? Like, the 49ers barely gave up anything for it.
No, you know what I love? Here's what I love, Steph, is the people calling it an underwhelming trade and then following it up with who?
Oh, my God.
So if you don't know, at least go do some research first before you, because you haven't heard of him does not mean that he's not good at football. And I implore you to at least do a little research, whether, not everybody has access to the film. Just look around real quick, see what other people are saying, try to get some information. But when you poo-poo a trade because you've never heard of the player, kind of telling on yourself just a little bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, with only 3 practices at most with the team before he has to suit up on Sunday, and I do expect that, most of the time when you have a trade happen like on a Tuesday, that player will not play. But this is just one of those situations where you gotta just need him out there. And even if he doesn't play that many snaps, even if he's like part of the rotation, I don't know, but you need him. So I do expect he'll be out there. But you can't expect too much. And if he is out there, you're gonna see a lot of freestyling, I think, and which will also be part of the result of, maybe just getting 1 or 2 pressures, if that. But like, dude, with the way that this defensive line has looked, I'll be happy with a couple pressures. Like, we'll take that, because they've just been lacking on it so much. So
I honestly think that it is going to be easier for him to fall into this role even after 3 days of practice, because the scheme is very simple. It's, you have a gap, fly through the gap. That's it, right? Like, that's all they're asking. In with New England, he's freestyling in run defense and kind of getting himself caught out of position. They simplify this defense with, here's your gap. This is what you need to maintain. Go. So, like, again, we talk about defensive scheme changes and everything. I really don't think that there's blitz concepts and there's different things that you show and coverage differences, right? Like that's completely different. In terms of how to get to the passer, what they want on the defensive line, it is very simple. Just go. So I don't think that there's going to be that much of a learning curve. Again, Chris Kosarik, I know you're watching. You're on the clock. So let's go, man. Like, you got to get something. Like, we expected you to get something out of the rookies. And while, Book is still out, Michael Williams, Alfred Collins played a bunch. CJ West was inactive on Sunday, which that's a whole other story. I really don't understand that. But, you know, I think it's pretty simple what you're going to be telling him to do. And if it's not simple enough, you're going to strip it down and make it simple enough because you need him out there. So I'm not nearly as concerned as like some sort of big learning curve for him. I think he has the skill set. I think they're going to value what he brings from rushing inside, and when you have the sum of the parts of YGM, him, Huff, Michael, now you can really get funky again and start moving them all around. So it's cool. Like I think again, these types of moves aren't going to knock your socks off, but this is exactly how they should be trying to build up this defensive line. And then the rest of it is you just hope this defensive line gets hot. Somebody hits the ground running, somebody starts to figure it out, and then you just go from there.
And to be fair, as we've been saying, like there've been a lot of defensive linemen that the 49ers have picked up either via trade or free agency that would have that response of who, like I don't know this player, but lo and behold, they end up being productive for the 49ers. So again, before we, just completely dismissed the idea that this might be a good move for the 49ers, how about let's see it play out and
Yeah.
see if he can, live up to some of the expectations, which, the expectations, even based on just what they gave up, shouldn't be that high. So there's opportunity for him to surpass that as well.
Yeah, and look, Jordan Willis went from a guy who you never heard of to a person who shouldn't ever buy a drink ever in the Bay Area for what he did in with the Green Bay Packers. Think about how you felt when you heard about Omenahue and Key. Not everybody was like, "Oh, what the
I mean,
hell?" Like,
Yetur
yeah,
Matos was like what, sixth, seventh round
right.
trade.
See, are you in on the bit now? Or are we just pissing Rob off? We're just gonna keep doing 6-7, or I
I
mean, I
di-
don't even know what it means. I don't even know what it means. I'm just like
Nobody
having
knows what it
no.
means.
It's fine, but it's provocative and it's funny because Rob hates it so much. But again, like these players, and again, look, I want to contextualize that with the fact that Jordan Willis joined a very good defensive line. So let's just let's not like make it seem like Jordan Willis was his game wrecker. But they're gonna have their spots and they're gonna be able to do things like that, right? Like and not only did Arden Key revive his career, got paid. Omenahue revive his career, he got paid. Like that's the thing, and that's where you should be setting your expectations is low risk, high reward. And if the coaching staff is what you believe it is, and that includes Robert Saleh, but I'm still just going to keep going to Chris Kosuric. The coaching staff is what you believe them to be, then yes, let's get something out of it, especially with somebody who I think is going to be motivated to play. Doesn't like the book that's been thrown out at him. Second round talent. That's something that you still really can't, you lose sight of. And it's just one move in addition to other moves that the 49ers still have to make on the defensive line. I feel far better about this defensive line knowing that they're not just going to sit and just let those guys run out there and not try anything than I did a few hours ago when we were all crashing out that Travis Gibson was off the team for some reason.
It's bad. It's bad when we're like freaking out over that. But it would have been malpractice if they went into Sunday's game with only two healthy guys on the edge and whoever else they probably were just going to find off of the street. So yeah, that needed to happen, and hopefully it's not the last move that happens for an edge spot.
Look, and if I had my way, and again, I don't. Again, the team doesn't care. Again, they have no reason to listen. If I had my way, I'd be adding Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips and seeing whatever it is that it takes from Miami. The same thing after that. If it's not him, then let's talk about Jermaine Johnson. Like, don't get to a point where now you're just like, oh, we're bargain bin, diving. If you can get out there and go get a guy like Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, who's still very young, Jermaine Johnson, who I think the world of. And remember, Jermaine Johnson, I covered that draft in Vegas, and the question that I asked him at his press conference was about Robert Saleh, and he like lit up like with a smile on his face, like ear to ear about being so excited to play for Robert Saleh, right? Like again, the Jets don't have to trade him or anything like that. Let's also put that out there too, Steph. If the 49ers don't trade for the person that you want, just remember that team doesn't have to say yes. The Madden sliders are, you don't turn off, the trades. If a team does not want to trade a player that you want to them, I don't know if we should be yelling at the team, but I still would like to see them go after somebody like Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. That would be really nice. That would make me feel far better about this. But I think I've kind of just set my watch to it just being Cleveland Farrell knows what he's doing here. We can just plug him in. Arden Key knows what he's doing here. We can do that. And then we'll just go on the back end. Like, remember when they traded for Randy Gregory? That's kind of what it feels like a Shaq Barrett signing would be if they do bring him in on the edge.
Yeah, because as we were saying, like they do have guys that are just hurt right now, but those injuries aren't long-term injuries. So you look at any move as somewhat of a band-aid, for lack of a better word, until those guys get back. So, I mean,
good phrasing too, especially with all the injury news.
God, better than a cast in this case. For the 49ers, just a band-aid. They'll be back. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did feel like this was enough, just because it's a short-term thing that you're missing so many guys. But I do think John Lynch has probably called on every pass rusher out there, even if it's been reported or not that that player is available, even if it makes sense for that team to trade that player. I mean, you just have to leave no stone unturned. And, I trust that Lynch probably does that. So it hasn't been for a lack of trying that, it's been this long and since the Nick Bosa injury, and we're just now getting a trade, right? As we had said, even when the Nick Bosa injury happened, like that was so early in the season that teams were going to wait to fill out their situation and what made most sense for them. So again, just because the 49ers are interested doesn't mean that, we're going to get a trade for another pass rusher. But yeah, it has to make sense for another team. We don't know if the Dolphins won this past week, for Christ's sake. Not that that means that they're so back. I mean, they're definitely not.
Oh,
but
they're back.
how delusional teams can be, right? So, and as you said, like a few weeks ago, they got to sell tickets still.
Of course.
So, money is king in the NFL. So, we'll see if any other moves get made, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there weren't any, and I'd still be happy if this was the only move they made.
Yeah, and the other thing is we have one more week. Again, like you don't know where teams are going to be after this week, and that'll open up a bunch of and to your point about checking on players that weren't available, nobody but KP was talking about Keion White. Nobody. So, yes, the 49ers, you know what? You can say whatever you want. And obviously, hey, I'd love Bradley Chubb and I'd love this guy. And, the Max Crosby thing is absolutely never going to happen, not in any lifetime, because I don't know if 49er fans remember, they had a better package on the table for Khalil Mack. And Al Davis's son said, I'd rather rot than let him go to the 49ers. So that'll never happen. You might as well just throw that one out as well, too. But it is that they're doing their actual due diligence, and I didn't want to use that phrase, but they are looking at players that are falling out of favor, right? Like they've got their eyes on people that healthy scratch, and do they have the traits, right? The 49ers like to bet on traits, and they like to bet on players that they feel like they can get the most out of. Like when you combine all those things together, that's when you get like, these types of trades. So, yeah, I just look again, this is the first move of many. I would like Bradley Chubb or like I said, Jalen Phillips. The Kayvon Thibodeau thing is out. Like that's completely out.
Yeah, but they don't want to trade him.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Why would the New York Giants, right, who have a 25-year-old cost-controlled defensive lineman who is probably playing the best football of his career, why would they be interested in getting rid of him? If you're watching the Giants, if you're watching the Giants, the player that is on the outs is Dexter Lawrence. They want him gone. So you keep Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it started. But if you're the Giants and one of your best run defenders, and by the way, you're at the bottom of the league in run defending, he's a cost-controlled player that you drafted for 2 years, and you want to trade him? Now, look, you just hold him this year, you run it back next year and see what happens, and then maybe you make a trade. But I never understood why, just because as 49ers fans we wanted Kayvon Thibodeau, what does that mean? Does that mean the Giants want him? Like, no. Like, what? I mean, the Giants want to trade him? No. Like, just because I want you on my team doesn't mean that team has to trade him to you. So it is what it is. Like, I think, you have to at least call Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. If that doesn't work, then fine. You try Jermaine Johnson. If that doesn't work, then your plan is very simple. Cleveland Farrell, Arden Key, Shaq Barrett, those types of guys, and you try to build up the sum of your parts and hope that Huff and YGM and all those guys are back.
Well, we got a super chat from Loner Incognito who says,
Nice.
We should start thinking about other names to replace Kyle and stop thinking Kyle will be the guy to get us there. How long will it take? Well, Loner, you must have missed our show last week because we did nothing but sing Kyle Shanahan's praises. And we actually think that he deserves to be in Coach of the Year consideration. That's even with the loss, on Sunday, mind you. So we're very much on the Shanahan train. What do you want to say about that, Jay? I know one of your favorite things to say about this. What is it?
Thank you for the donation.
That's it.
Listen,
No. What Jay always says is that if Kyle Shanahan was fired today, there would be like half of the league who would fire their current head coach, regardless of who it was, in order to hire Kyle Shanahan.
Okay, look. All right, real quick. We're gonna do this really fast.
Really quick.
We're gonna do this really fast. Really fast.
Rehash all of last week's episode.
We're gonna do this really fast. I'm going to name the team and I'm gonna say yes or no, and that's it. New England Patriots, no. Bills, yes. Dolphins, yes. Jets, yes. Steelers, yes. Bengals, yes. Ravens, no, but they should. Browns, yes. Colts, no. Jaguars, no. Texans, yes. Titans, yes. Broncos, they'll probably stick with Peyton. Chargers, they're not getting rid of Harbaugh. Reed, nah. Raiders, yes. Now let's do NFC. Eagles, no. Cowboys, yes, but Schottenheimer's done a good job. Commanders, yes, over Dan Quinn. Giants, yes. Packers, no. Lions, no. Bears, no. Minnesota, no, but they should. Bucks, yes. Panthers, yes. Falcons, yes. Saints, yes. Seahawks, no. Rams, no. Cardinals, yes. Like, that's like the entire league, basically. Like, yeah. I don't know, man.
He's a good coach.
He's a really good coach.
He's not perfect. And we criticize him when it's due here on the show, but he's doing, we think, a fantastic job given what's available to him this season. So, yeah.
And, I see it says doesn't care if I Gojira, shout out to you. Don't care if half the league would hire him. That doesn't mean is it wrong for the Niners and right for who hires him. Just get ready to learn Kyle Shanahan. He's not going anywhere, man. Like he's going to be here for a very long time. It's not a lifetime contract, but he's going to be here for a very long time. If that upsets you to the point, and not just you, Gojira, I'm not picking on you, bro, because you're a channel member and everything. If that upsets you, then you might want to stop watching the games because he's not going anywhere. He's as solid as it gets. I would bet that John Lynch is probably out of here before Kyle Shanahan is. Which doesn't really mean look. If one of the two had to go, who would you bet that would be the one that has to go?
Yeah, probably John. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we've already figured out that Adam Peters is the guy who wanted Javon Kinlaw, right? Because he went with him. There's a
and then he signed Drake Jackson.
They signed Drake Jackson, so there's your other one, right? Because Adam Peters never misses. He wanted Kinlaw and he wanted Jackson. How do I know? He brought him in as soon as he could. Right? And all the bad picks are Lynch, right? All the good picks are Adam Peters. All the bad picks are Lynch and Kyle. But when Adam Peters gets the job, he says, Kinlaw and Drake Jackson, they did really well for the 49ers, signed. No. Again, we're deviating from the path. But regardless, look, the things that... Oh, here's a good one. This is a good one. We can segue into something like this. Steph, should the 49ers look to move Jauan Jennings in a week?
He's not been great. I mean, he's not.
You're being nice.
I'm being nice. Yeah, I'm fed up. I'm fed up. After the drop on Sunday, I was like, FBI, investigate this man. because I mean he just hasn't been there. Like, and for a guy who made such a stink this offseason about wanting more money, and I get it, he performed really well, last season and did a lot performing as the wide receiver one when everyone else was hurt. But guess what? He has that same opportunity right freaking now, and he's not doing anything with it. So, man, I can't say just like how much he's hurt his value by the way he's playing this year. I mean, and that's what the 49ers paying him just a little bit extra to even play this year, which, say what you want about that. I mean, it was kind of a necessity with just the way their wide receiver room was shaping out at the beginning of the season. And now you're in a situation now where, Brandon Ayuk's still not back, although, it seems like that's coming soon at some point. Ricky Pearsall has missed several weeks. We'll see if he suits up on Sunday, but it could be another week without him. Like, you're missing guys. Demarcus Robinson hasn't been like featured as much as we expected. And I mean, I still think he's good, but I don't know. For some reason, just hasn't looked how we expected. But we were expecting more from Jauan Jennings, and we're just not getting it. We're getting a lot of inconsistency and just like mistakes that we wouldn't have normally seen. I just don't think his head is in the right place. So to answer your question, would I trade him? I mean, if you feel like this season is not one that you're contending for a Super Bowl and you're just sort of happy to be wherever you end up, then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't scoff at the idea. I'd definitely listen to whatever offers I can get. That being said, I mean, he's 30 years old. What can you even get for him? At the same time, he's gone after this year. So if you get anything for him, I mean, yes, you do it.
Bye-bye, buddy. If someone even offers a 6th, 7th rounder, and I'm not even being funny, you're out of here. You're out of here. You can't put up. Look, all right. Let's do this real quick. You can't act like you're that guy when we know you're not that guy. And what I mean by that is so many people were upset with Brandon Ayuk because of his contract negotiations. Here's the difference. Brandon Ayuk is really fucking good at football and can actually separate on his own. Jauan Jennings can't. Now he can't catch the football. And now he can't stay healthy. 5th, 6th, 7th rounder, bye-bye. Bye-bye. And there goes, as soon as I say bye-bye, there goes my lights. Bye-bye. Look, man. Bye-bye. Because you're going to leave next year. And you overplayed your hand. And you lost. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to hold them. You thought you had this organization by the neck. And congrats to the 49ers for not folding either. Congrats. Yeah. So if you're going to get anything, you're looking to restock the cupboard. And you do really well in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Because right now, Kendrick Bourne is better than you. I can't even believe these words are coming out of my mouth. The guy doesn't know where to line up. He's running the wrong routes. Back-to-back 140-yard games schemed up by Kyle Shanahan. And you can't even catch the football. Bye-bye. 5th, 6th, 7th rounder. Don't care. I'll drive him.
I kind of hope it happens at this point. I mean, why not? Why not? If you feel like next year you'll be in a better place to contend, then let's just look towards that. I mean, there are teams that are interested in trading for wide receivers.
The Steelers, the Patriots, those guys will come knocking. But you cost yourself millions of dollars, dude. Like, you, who directly looks at you right now and thinks that you're anything other than like a guy who's like a not even a featured guy. He's just a he has
just
a
role.
Guy? He's a role player. He's a role player. And the reason that he even broached 1,000 yards last season was because they force fed him. And if you were force feeding a actual $20 million receiver, I guarantee you they'd have over 1,000 yards. Guarantee. Not even close. Bye, man. It was fun. We liked you in the role that you're in. Kendrick Bourne took your job. He's playing better than you, and we can get the same amount of production from him as we can for you. And you don't want to be here, and you're going to sign somewhere next year. Bye. I have no problem with it.
And if he did get traded, because this is all hypothetical, but if he did get traded to another team, I don't even think that team that trades for him would re-sign him. Like,
No.
it would probably just be for the rest of the season,
Mhm.
and then bye-bye then too.
The Steelers are looking far and wide because they have DK Metcalf and 12 tight ends.
They just signed MVS.
That's an Aaron Rodgers. Like, the fact that they haven't traded for Alan Lazard is beyond me at this point. If Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere, Alan Lazard and MVS, you'll always have a job. Always have a job.
Insane.
But they need people. They like, I don't know if you guys watched Sunday Night Football with the Steelers. The first throw of the game that Aaron Rodgers threw, he threw to a backup offensive tackle that was lined up at tight end, and it looked smooth doing it as well,
talking
too.
About Washington?
No, I'm talking about Sunday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers' first play, he drops back, and he throws a pass to 74, who is a backup tackle, and he catches the pass, and he looks smooth doing it. So he's throwing to backup tackles, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, like you've got it wasn't even Darnell Washington. He was the second biggest guy on the line.
He looks like an offensive lineman.
Oh yeah, no, he was the second biggest guy on the line. The Steelers would absolutely take him. And Mike Tomlin, wide receiver guy, would be like, "Oh, we love his run blocking." Yeah, I bet. Whatever you want. 6th round, cool. Bye. Pittsburgh is definitely a team that would go for him. But again, he's injured. He's telling everybody that he's got broken ribs and this and that.
Do you think that was part of the reason, like, he put that out there? Because, like, he's trying to get traded, or, like, he doesn't want to get traded, I mean? Because, like, if he's dealing with that, there's no way he would even pass a physical, right, to even have a trade go through. Oh.
And there you go. Bang. Cleveland Farrell. I mean, that was easy. Bang. That's not, come on. That's not it's not like an Aponte and Steph bomb. Like, that was easily going to happen. No, but, like, with Jennings, right, he's run a masterclass on how to create bad press around yourself and self-sabotage. So your self-sabotage is you ask for an amount of money, which is absolutely ludicrous because everyone knows what type of receiver you are. And whatever money you get from anywhere else, are you going to break off Kyle Shanahan for some of that money? Because he's the reason that anybody really, looks at you like that. Then you're complaining about injuries after you were yelling at the coach who's trying to run a 2-minute drill at the end of the half. And then you complain about that. And then Trent Williams goes out and says, hey, we're all dealing with something. Pretty much telling him to shut up about it, because the same way where I say I don't have to give a shit about other teams' injuries, if you're on this team and you're playing and you're complaining about an injury, shut up. How many of these guys are dealing with injuries day to day? It's the entire team. Shut up. Are you, he's got that dog in him. Sounds like a puppy to me. Because all these other guys are dealing with things that are not talked about, right? Like, nobody's healthy. So if you're talking about how to run bad press and how to really ruin your reputation, this is exactly how to do it if you're looking for a 1, 2, 3 step way of doing it.
It's complete. This is just a complete different version of him than, like, we were used to seeing, because I just felt like, prior to this, it was the selfless, anything I could do to help the team kind of player, and just we didn't really hear from him, right? Like, he just quiet, did his job. And, me and Jay always support players trying to get what they want. We want to make that very clear. But also, we were fine with the 49ers not being that team to give it to him.
Correct.
And so that's what it is. And for him to take a little bit more money to play this season and then act and look like this, I mean, what a downfall. What a downfall it is for him. And the final straw for me was when Mac Jones scrambles, picks up a first down, and Mac Jones has already passed you at that point, but you're holding.
Oh, the face mask.
And that gets called back. Oh, that one made me hot. Like, I was so pissed.
So A guy who can't, and this is it, right? Like we're done here, and I have other things that we want to talk about, but I felt like we did need to talk about this. For a guy who can't separate, he gets down the field. Mac Jones couldn't have walked it to him even better than where he placed the football, and you can't come down with it. That's why you can't demand $15 million right there, because the catch that you did make near the goal line was a 50-50 ball, and that's the type of receiver you are because you can't separate. But when you're that wide open, when you've made that much of a stink, when you said that I believe I am worth this amount of money, those players catch that football, and you just didn't. And that is just indicative of the season that you're. I want Rob to put that stat back up on the screen that Josh Dubois put out there, because this is absolutely perfect, and you won't believe it. And this is for the audio listeners. I know that we saw it on there as well too. It was talking about how many times he's been targeted and the passer rating. And I believe that he's near the bottom of the league with Isaiah Bond and Jerry Jeudy. Now, the Cleveland Browns, and I'll read it verbatim. 112 players have 25 plus targets this season. The 38.0 passer rating for 49ers QBs when targeting Jauan Jennings ranks 110th, ahead of only two Browns, Isaiah Bond 35.8, Jerry Jeudy 32.7. Throwing the ball in the dirt every play would raise his passer rating to 39.6%. Now, here's the thing. Isaiah Bond and Jerry Jeudy, they play for the Browns. Dylan Gabriel, like Joe Flacco, they're not good, is what I'm saying. This isn't an indictment on Isaiah Bond and Jerry Jeudy. I think that they can actually separate. But the idea that you can throw the ball in the dirt every time you target him and raise his passer rating, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So basically what we're saying is, he could be traded and we wouldn't flinch. But Jay, before we get out of here, like I did want to ask you this, because I don't feel like the 49ers are at a crossroads, but they're definitely not at that high point that they were a few weeks ago,
right,
heading into the Bucs game. We felt really good about the team. Things have changed since then. More injuries. You've dropped a couple. So at this point, I want to ask you, do you still think the 49ers, this current 49ers team, is capable of winning 10 games this season and sneaking into the playoffs?
I do, but I think the NFC West might be out. The Rams and the Seahawks are good. But that's fine. I think that was one of the outcomes that we had. I do think that if the 49ers can beat this Giants team, which is shell-shocked right now, their coach is losing it, and, obviously the Scatterbo thing sucks, and their defense is putrid. Like, if you can just get out of there without, an ACL or two getting ripped up by that carpet, and then you add Keion White, you have Farrell, Bryce Huff returns the next week, YGM returns, you start to feel better about it. And the thing is, the schedule is still soft. It's still soft. Now, I don't want Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, or I don't even want them to travel to New Jersey. I don't want them to travel to New Jersey either. Like, if they're not going to play, and I don't want them to play, don't even send them out there. But if the 49ers rip off this game against the Giants, then they're right back in it, 6-3. It's crazy to think that right now the two number 7 seeds in the NFL are the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, we wouldn't have predicted that for two different reasons, but they're still in it. And they're still capable of winning games. Yes, I do think that they are going to win. They're going to win 10 games still, and I think it's still possible. I just think the NFC West is kind of out now. Even though they're 3-0 in the division. It's just, if that Week 18 game comes down to it in Seattle, we'll see what shape the 49ers are in, but I hope it doesn't, because I don't like their chances to go in there and try to beat up on that team who's figuring it out week to week.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, it's easy to feel doom and gloom, and certainly like the NFC West picture for the 49ers does look a little more dark, these days,
well,
which is
NFL's
fine.
NFL's week to week, so we went from, hey, they whipped up on Atlanta to, oh my God, it's over. But that, it seems like after all 3 losses, everything has been, oh my God, it's over, which, should be your sign to like maybe chill a little bit.
Chill a little bit, but when they win, we're so back.
We're so back. Super Bowl back on.
We're so back. But like, yeah, so NFC West, that might be harder to come by. You have the Seahawks and Rams, ahead of you now. But if you look at the teams below the 49ers in the NFC,
Oh, it
Panthers,
is at home. Good call. I'm
Bears,
sorry.
Cowboys, Falcons, Vikings, Commanders, Cardinals, Giants, Saints. I mean, which one of those teams do you really feel like would have a chance to pull away?
And thank you to everybody. Week 18 is at Levi's, and they're gonna wear those horrible uniforms. What's interesting is that Minnesota game could be Kirk Cousins, if what we're hearing is true, right? Like I really think the Vikings are really afraid of JJ McCarthy, like very afraid of him. They don't want him to play, and Kirk's like, I can come on home, So, you're looking at those games, and obviously week to week injuries, all that stuff, right? The Cardinals could be annoying, as they always are in those games, especially Kyler's back. Look, Will Johnson, Nolan, those guys are going to start rounding into shape. The Cardinals' problem is not defense at all. That's not their problem. The problem is that they're the Cardinals. But that doesn't mean that they don't give the 49ers problems, right? Like, the Vikings have a great defense. Are you okay with a Kyle Shanahan offense against Brian Flores? Cleveland stinks. But are you okay with a Kyle Shanahan offense against Jim Schwartz in Cleveland when it could be raining or cold or snowing or like we have to wait week to week? Like I'm not ready to write those games off. I'm really not, just because of the history. Kyle unfortunately has a tough time against Brian Flores and Jim Schwartz. And if that Cleveland game, which is on the lake in Cleveland, and Brock Purdy's playing, and it's raining a little, the ball's going to start flying around and flipping around and shit. And, Jim Schwartz plays really well. And Myles Garrett had 5 sacks. Man alive, 5 sacks on... what about this offensive line? Right? So I'm not ready to write off that Cleveland game. Hypothetically, you would say, hey, listen, they should take down the Cleveland Browns. But Jim Schwartz is still their defensive coordinator, and that game is in Cleveland. That one scares me a lot.
Yeah, and that's fair. Maybe next week, we go through the list of remaining games and, we give our kind of semi-mid-season prediction for rest of the way. Because, we did it at the beginning of the season, and I think right now it's looking somewhat different. But
a little. I think we had it like 5-3. I think we could have probably.
It's funny. It's funny because I think some of the games that we won, we probably had lose, and vice versa. Like,
right. So listen, process was fine. You know what I'm saying? Like it worked. It's just, Houston has the best defense in football, and you didn't possess the ball at all in that game. That's a recipe for losing. When a team runs 80 plays on your defense and your offense is on the sideline, what are you supposed to do? And then, we probably said, whatever about Atlanta. Seattle, we were a little worried about that game. 49ers win that game. Arizona, we probably had as a win as well, too. 5-3 after 8 weeks is probably exactly right where we should be, in terms of the predictions. But where you are with record and where you are with personnel and roster, being 5-3 without Bosa and Warner and all these guys, it's suboptimal. Let's just say that. So I think there's a different feeling about, not all 5-3s are equal, but it is 5-3 still at the end of the day in the NFL. So, it doesn't matter what you think about a team that's 5-3. The fact is they are 5-3, and they still have a chance to, continue to stack games and win. Now, if you want to conflate that to, well, I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs, that's fine. But we're just talking about through 8 games, winning 5, that's probably exactly where you need to be. And, through it all, the 49ers have been able to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, if they could sneak in as a wild card team, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
That. I mean, that's about what.
No, Steph, you're a bad
best case scenario at the beginning of the season.
Nah, you're a bad fan. You know why?
I know, because I don't believe. I'm not faithful.
You don't believe that they're gonna win a Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl is a goal. Yeah. All right. Well, one team wins the Super Bowl every year, and it's either Andy Reid or Jalen Hurts' coach, or Sean McVay. But everybody else,
I know, Jay. I know the solution to the 49ers problem. They should fire Kyle Shanahan to sign Andy Reid as their head coach. Did I do
or
it
Nick
right?
Sirianni, right? Or Nick Sirianni, right? Yeah, no. Here it is. Fire Kyle Shanahan because Robert Saleh's a better head coach.
Oh my gosh. I just know there are people who
Oh,
would say that and
it's
like
all over. It's
down
it's
for it.
it's in within 1 to 3 years. Robert Sala's not gonna be here in 3 years, so that's it. Like, come on, man.
Oh god.
God.
And with that,
Well, yeah, that'll do it for this episode of Bully Ball on the Ghost Center. But
uh,
Steph, though, real quick, you gonna be in town this weekend?
hell yeah, I'm gonna be in New York.
Oh, it is up and it's stuck, man. So, for anybody that's looking for something to do this weekend, if you're in the area, New York, New Jersey, me and Steph are gonna be out there. Rob is gonna be out there as well too, even though he hates college football and he likes Three Musketeers, which is a little strange. I didn't realize that. I found that out today. But on Saturday, the 49ers invasion is at Finity's, which is in Midtown. For anybody that is looking to go, I actually have 2 tickets. I'm not going to be able to go because I'm going to John Chapman's party on Saturday in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is
That's
actually
where
my
I'll be
hometown.
too.
Yep. So if anybody's going to be out there, you're going to be out there looking for somewhere to party. There's going to be a lot of 49er fans in Hoboken. Make sure you go check out, and Rob as well too. Make sure you go check out John Chapman's thing in Hoboken. It's very family friendly. I'll bring Averly. My family's gonna be around. It's my hometown, so a lot of my friends are gonna be there. It's gonna be a great time. So yeah, it's gonna be really awesome if you're looking for things to do. And then obviously, if you're gonna be out there Sunday, let us know. We'll be out there for tailgate. Go say what's up, grab a beer before the game and everything, and then just pray to the football guys that MetLife Stadium has no more ACLs that they're hungry for on that field.
Yeah.
Nope, nothing. Nothing.
What I do know is that regardless, I'm gonna be drinking. I'm gonna be drunk for this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know who's drunk? The New York Giants. I looked at tickets, and the cheapest ticket to get into this game is $267, and it's literally on top of the lights. I don't know in what world
That's where I'm.
that. Yeah, but a team like the New York Giants has the unmitigated gall to charge that much money to watch Brian Dabble coach football games is ridiculous. For comparison, next week, the 49ers play the Rams at Levi's, and get into Levi's is $200. I take whatever it is from that you will. I cannot believe that. So listen, I'll tell you this: if that price doesn't drop, catch me at the Yard House across the street in American Dream, man, and we gonna do it up because I can do way more with that money than sit on the lights and get mad at a football game. I can get mad at a football game inside and have some good eats. Shout out to Yard House. Y'all should really cut the check. But that'll do it for this episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to this video on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcasts. Make sure you follow Nick Bosa, a.k.a. Steph, on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at JasonApate2103. Make sure you subscribe to both of our YouTube channels as well, too. The 49ers trade for desperately needed pass rush help, Keion White from the New England Patriots. And Cleveland Farrell is headed back to the Bay as well, too. So the bodies are starting to pile up, which is a good thing. And we can only hope for good results. So for Steph, for Jay, we're out here.
Peace.